Welcome to the Grace Fellowship podcast. We are so excited that you're here listening with us. We hope that today's episode will inspire and equip you to know and follow Jesus.
Well, hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Grace Fellowship podcast. Today, we're talking about week 2 of the ride. And Chris, how was week 2?
It was great.
It was great.
It was great. I was actually fighting a little bit of the allergies this last week. And so, my voice is naturally raspy. What? Yeah, I know. I don't know what's going on. I just need to stay down here. I'm only going to make...
Don't try to emphasize anything. You'll be okay.
Yeah. My voice is naturally raspy, but today I took a little extra, or this weekend. So, it was great, though. Got a little. It was great. I'm gonna struggle with that today, but it was fun because we got to celebrate 66 baptisms from last week, and many things that God's doing. But I really enjoyed what we talked about yesterday, just from the standpoint of, man, we want to see people take steps to follow Jesus, put their faith in Him. So we celebrate baptism, but really the next step, following Jesus was never a destination,
right?
It's the beginning of the greatest ride, journey, and it's in that journey that you experience fullness. So, but the first step is important, but so is the next step, and the next step, and the next step.
Right.
If you ever stop taking steps, that's the part that sometimes I think, you find yourself off center.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, let's come back to that real quick. We typically do like a weekend
summary,
recap.
Yep.
So another awesome, great weekend. I don't know, man. I leave every weekend just kind of going, God, thanks for letting me be part of it.
Yeah.
What you're doing.
Same.
But we had our New to Grace dinner last night.
I would say that was probably and I've loved them all, but last night it just went really well.
Yeah.
Jessica did a great job setting it all
Jessica
up.
did
Good job,
Yep.
Jess. But I would also just say, it just was a great environment, great room, great conversation. Enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. So we had around 100, a little over 100 people there in the room last night. So in essence, that's taking the East Auditorium and completely filling that room with tables and chairs.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to walk in, and we sit around tables, and if somebody hasn't been to New to Grace dinner, typically we have 1 or 2 staff sitting at each table. This time we sat people by community. So if you were from Boyd, you sat at a Boyd table, or if you're from Decatur, you sat at a Decatur table.
Yeah.
And man, I had a blast just talking to the people that were at my table, hearing about, how long have they been in the area, where did they come from, how'd they find out about our church,
right?
All that. And last night it was hard to get going with the program again because people were talking so much.
Oh yeah,
it was really cool.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah.
So I will say, people bingo. We did people bingo last night.
Yeah,
and I literally signed 2 cards, and there was already multiple bingos from the same table, which
That's
just made me kind of go,
suspicious.
okay.
I know.
Did somebody?
But I verified the results.
But did we get an early start? Did Jim T?
Probably.
Was he priming the pump, telling them, all right, here's the people you need to go to?
Jim T.
I'm just saying, he's a competitive one.
Got to watch that guy.
I know. Anyway, we'll see.
All right. Well, week 2 of the ride, and Chris, week 1 was about the first jump.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And you were talking about getting out over and being ready for that first jump.
Yeah.
And then this week and part of what you tied into a first jump was the first step of obedience.
Yes.
Once you place your faith in Jesus, is baptism. And then we celebrated 66 baptisms, which was cool. And then this week, what you talked about was staying centered. And so, when you watch bull riding, there's that come out of the chute, and there's that first jump. And if they don't make that first jump, it's over.
It's over.
Right?
Yeah. And actually, I was just watching this week bull riding. There's several guys that you could tell they weren't ready.
Yeah.
Actually, what happens now is a lot of times if they take too long in the chute, they'll put them on the clock.
Yep.
And I was watching one, they got down below 5, and he finally nods, and the first jump, and he's on the dirt. And I'm just
knew
like,
he wasn't ready. Yeah.
He wasn't ready, and he overthought it, and
it
was rough.
So they make that first jump, and then once they make the first jump, then the real key is just staying centered.
Yeah.
And so you talked about what it means to stay centered and how we do that, and obviously making spiritual analogies here. And so your first point was really fixing your focus.
Yeah, and really we talked about there in the setup a little bit is just really the greater danger in following Jesus. For most people, it's not one big bad decision.
Yeah.
It's a slow drift. It makes me think of, as a kid going to the beach and we'd be out in the water playing and we'd look up and like we're, half a mile from where we started and we had no clue. We look up, we're like, where are our parents? Where's our stuff? And it's like, oh, that's not even our building. Where's our building? And it was a slow drift over time that took us to a place that we never intended to be, right? And I think that that's really the story of people who struggle to follow Jesus is there's a slow drift. And in bull riding, that's really the problem. If you watch, the bull's moving, twisting, whatever, and as they start getting off center, bull riders are constantly, if certain times they're using their free arm to help pull themselves back to the middle. They're using their spurs to pull themselves back forward. If they get too far forward, their feet will come out from under them. It's like one of those things of they're constantly trying to figure out, all right, how do I make sure I get back to the middle? And I think that that's the reality of why this matters so much is because we will naturally drift away from center. Yeah, we'll naturally drift in our relationship, and so fixing our focus is just really it's kind of what Paul was talking there of. Hey, set your thoughts, set your mind on the things of God. Like make that the focus of your life, because it's if you don't, it is. There's plenty of other things to focus on. Yeah, and when you lose your focus, man, you can lose your center real fast.
Yeah. So I was thinking about as you were talking about that, and you can see this when you're watching bull riding, is if they get a little off center, then you already said it. There's a lot of extra arm movement, or now there's a lot more energy that it takes to even try to save the ride at that point to get back on center. Whereas if they stay centered, it still takes a lot of energy to ride a bull, but they're likely going to have a successful ride if they can stay centered. And I'm thinking about in our own life, when we get off center, when we get our focus off, we quit thinking about heaven realities and we take our eyes off of Jesus, however we want to say that. It takes a lot more energy than to get recentered. Yeah. And I'm thinking about just your analogy of at the beach. I can remember taking our kids to the beach the first few times we did that, and we would tell them, hey, when you're out there playing, keep looking up at us. Keep looking back up here and finding us. And told them you're going to end up drifting down the beach and could get lost, And so if you think about when you did that as a kid and you ended up a half mile down the beach, all the extra energy to come back to where you were supposed to be. And so there's really it's a drift. It's a slow drift. Yeah. And then it takes a lot of extra energy to get back centered, It's worth the energy, but it takes a lot of energy to do it. The other thing I was going to think about was, you said it's usually not one big decision. Yeah. And I think that even when we look at something, we've seen some pastors that have, failed in big public things, whatever. Yeah. And we kind of think, oh man, where'd that come from? That was just a sudden one big time decision that they failed. And you're like, well, no, probably if we could look, under the hood, what we would see is there was this slow fade or compromise at some area of their life. Again, not intentional. Yeah. But just not keeping their eyes on what they're supposed to keep their eyes on. Yeah. In any area of your life. And then it can appear that there's this one-time big failure.
Yeah. Well, and that's even in bull riding, we go back to that. Sometimes they'll slow it down. They have all the different camera angles. Yeah. And they'll stop and pause and be like, all right, now look where his eyes are. His eyes are over here. This is where the ride went wrong. Mm-hmm. Right? They're able to slow it down and go, hey, this is where, because in 2 kicks later, he's on that side of the bull. I mean, he's in the well or he's whatever it is, but he gets thrown off. I think back, you talked about, that it takes more effort to get back to the middle. There's a guy, Jose Vitor Leme, won a world champion bull rider for, I think, 2021 and let's see if I've got that stat anywhere, maybe 2020 and 2025. man, I remember one season watching him. It might have been 21. It might have been 25. But I can't remember. That should have just been last year. It was last year, actually. Every time he got on the bull, it didn't look like there was a chance he was going to get thrown off. He stayed so centered. He made some, bull rides, some rides look incredibly easy on some of the top bulls.
Yeah.
And he actually holds the record for the highest score on a on a ride. And it's one of those things of he stayed so centered, he made it look easy.
Yeah.
And here's what I would say. I think that the bull riders are studying somebody like that and going, all right, what did he do? How did he prepare for that? What did he know? What is he doing? Because we want to figure out how, and I would say this, this is why being in a Christian community matters, being around other believers. Because when you look at other people and you go, man, they're really walking with Christ. They're godly. They've got the attributes we talk about. Like, I want to see, how are they, like, what are they doing to stay so centered? Yeah. They make it look easy. And I'm just going to tell you, following Jesus, if you stayed centered, it's definitely easier.
Yeah.
Right? If you keep your focus on him, you fix your focus, it's definitely easier. But I would just say there's some people that it seems like they make it look easy. and I would just say, man, people like that, it doesn't mean that they don't have struggles or problems. They just navigate them differently.
Yeah.
Because they're more centered. They don't get so thrown sideways because they're so centered. It doesn't have the same impact.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't know.
Oh yeah, okay. Totally. It made sense to me. I think about certain people that you look at and think, hey, that's the kind of Christian I want to be. That's the kind of follower of Jesus I want to be. And I agree. I think if you went and could look behind the scenes and find out what are they doing in private.
Yes.
That's resulting in the public demonstration
That's
of
right.
it. And I had a mentor many years ago that would say discipleship or, growing in Jesus isn't always measurable.
Yeah.
But it is perceivable.
Yeah.
And so that's always been my question is when you think about somebody that you would call a mature disciple or a committed follower of Jesus or whatever, it's perceivable.
Yeah.
Right. But we have to go and go, okay, but what was happening privately that creates that what is visible for us to perceive that, there's something happening there. Now, sometimes there's some people who are great actors. They look like they're doing all the right things. Behind the scenes, they're not. But eventually, I think they're gonna fall off, right? I think so. I think there is something, we've talked a lot about this. What are they doing in their...
I'm the one with
I got your voice
issue.
now.
Yeah.
What are they doing privately? We would call it personal disciplines.
Yeah.
To really stay centered and stay focused.
So and I think that's probably a word that the enemy uses or who has given us a negative connotation of the word discipline.
Yeah.
Because we think discipline, we think bad, we think negative, or that sounds hard, that sounds harsh, that sounds. Yeah. But yet I've learned over time, and this is not because I'm naturally disciplined. If you ask, I've got a brother who's a Marine, a sister who has worked in government. If you asked us growing up who was most disciplined, I would have been at the bottom of the list. I mean, it wasn't. Mm-hmm. But several years ago, when you and I have talked about this, I don't think we've talked about this on the pod before, but the first message I ever preached. Now, how crazy is this? 18 years old, my pastor asked me, hey, I want you to preach at the student-led night. I'm like, I'll lead worship. I probably can't carry a thought longer than 5 minutes. And he's like, no, you're going to preach. And so I was like, all right. So I worked on the passage, and I taught from the passage of God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline or self-control. But really that word self-discipline can go either way. Now, my whole life, I always thought, well, I'm just not disciplined. That's just not my personality. And, I'm just kind of a shoot from the hip kind of guy. And, over time, God began to develop in me. No, discipline is a gift from God. It's a gift because several years ago, actually, discipline became my word for the year, which I was like not excited about. Mm-hmm. But I was like, all right, Lord, let's see how this goes. I was more. But because I became focused on that, I became healthier physically because I started being more disciplined what I ate and working out. I was like more consistent because I became more disciplined with my time, organized with my time. And that was the first year that my read through the Bible in a year plan took less than 2 years. I mean, it was like one of those. I mean, I always crammed it into 2 years, and it was like, no. Yeah. And so it was the first time I was able to do that. But I look back, and I think what God taught me as I began looking back, it's a gift because it even reflects the nature of God. He comes in, he creates order out of disorder. Yeah. And the reality of discipline is that we want to just continue in disorder because our flesh says, man, it'll be fine, just figure it out. Whereas I believe God, he came in, he created order out of disorder. Yeah. And that when we begin to take on that characteristic, what we're doing when we begin to, put these things into our life and become disciplined with these things, it's actually a gift because God's bringing order out of disorder. Yeah. And even though, I think the enemy gets it, literally, I do think it's a spiritual attack to say, that's not you. That's not your personality. You can't do that. I think it's a spiritual attack because if that's a gift, the spirit inside of you, the Holy Spirit says, man, I can do this in you. Mm-hmm. I can do this with you. I actually believe it brings peace. It brings blessing. It helps you stay centered. Yeah, because God's now created order out of disorder in your life. And so I'm not perfect at that. It's easy to follow me around for 5 minutes and realize that he's not that disciplined. But at the same time, I do believe it's one of the things that God has shown me as a gift over time. Because if you go to the people that you see, they're just, man, they just make it following Jesus look easy. They have so much faith. They aren't thrown off by the ups and downs very much. Yeah. They seem consistent. That's probably a good word for it. Yeah, they seem very consistent, right? Yep. If you look behind the scenes, there's this daily discipline of this rhythm that keeps them on center. Yeah,
and that's where you and I have had many discussions about discipline. And I get uncomfortable with the word discipline, and it's not that I don't like the word discipline. I don't like how
it's been used.
We've allowed the perception of discipline to become, and so it has a little bit of a negative connotation. Yeah. But really,
because what you've said before, and I get it, is that we got to be disciplined and follow Jesus, do our things, and it's a bad thing. If we treat it like just work really hard and be super disciplined and push through it, and then you'll be following Jesus. It's like, no, that's not really the intent of discipline.
Yeah, yeah. So it's You've probably heard it said that discipline is doing doing what you have to do today to get what you want to, or get to where you want to do tomorrow. I didn't even say that right.
To get what you want.
That was kind of English. I think I got my participles wrong there, but that's an inside joke. If you weren't at newcomers, new to Grace Dinner. But now I totally forgot what I was saying. Doing what I have to do today so I can do what I want to do tomorrow.
Hey, that works.
And I think when you're thinking about discipline, it's thinking about what's the joy that comes as a result of the discipline. Oh, yeah. And so I'm like you. Most people would say Mark's not very disciplined. In fact, we have to hire an assistant just to keep Mark even moving in the right direction half the time, and to make sure he shows up at a meeting that's on his calendar 5 times. So we could say Mark's not real disciplined, but you know what? I can be. When there's something that I really want, I can be super disciplined. Oh yeah. So you go back to my athletic days. Oh yeah. I was a pretty disciplined athlete. Yeah. And I put in the hard work. Yeah. Because I wanted to be better. Yeah. And so, but that was because I saw joy in the other side of, I loved winning. I loved performing at the highest level that I could, all that kind of stuff. So there was joy. Mm-hmm. Same thing when we work out. We work out. Why? Well, because I have this picture of I'm going to feel better. I'm going to look better, right? All that. So there's this joy that you're focusing on that drives the discipline. Yeah. And so I think that's pretty important. But I think all of that really is we would summarize discipline in our lives, at least spiritually. It's really abiding. Yeah. Right. And John 15. Says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. Abide in me, and you will bear much fruit. And so when we see fruit, here's a believer who, man, look at that. Mm-hmm. I want to be like that. Yeah. Well, you got to figure out, oh, well, wait, they're abiding. How do they abide? Yeah. Well, there's these disciplines that they're practicing.
Yeah. It's a daily. Honestly, it's not just a daily. It's a moment by moment. Yeah. You don't go to a vine and the branch is there just one time a day, and
just in the morning.
Right. Like it doesn't leave. Right. Yeah. It stays there. And that's why it's really the picture of being centered. It was funny is this passage I spent a lot of time on 2 Peter 1, where it goes through a process of, add to your faith this and add to this. I was like, man, maybe that's where I'm going to be. And then I spent some time on Romans 12 and I ended up on this. But there's so many passages, including John 15, that you can go to and go, this is what centered looks like.
Yeah.
This wasn't one of those things. It was like, well, man, I hope we find a passage. It's like there's so many passages that we could use that's talking about this idea of staying centered that, it was like, all right, Lord, which one?
I feel like at least probably a ton of Paul's writings, it's kind of what he's saying the whole time. It's like he's writing these letters to these churches and going, whoa, why are you getting distracted? Why are you looking at all this stuff of the world over here and all this over here and your passions over there? Come back, get focused.
Yeah.
Right back here, here. Yeah. And it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
But it can be challenging. But it's like, just come back here and focus.
And I think that's a good point, because sometimes he's actually, and even in Colossians a little bit, he's actually addressing false teaching, but where they were trying to go back and say, well, if you're going to be a follower of Jesus, you have to do these religious things too.
Right.
And if you're going to be a follower, you have to, and they would get sideways about these teachings that he's going, no, you're making it more difficult than it has to be.
The gospel is actually pretty simple.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
And I think even in religious realms and worlds, I think sometimes we get really focused on the religious behavior and not the relationship. And what Paul's really bringing it back to is, hey guys, you've been raised to this new life, in Christ, in relationship with Christ. And that was another part of the passage I didn't really get to dig into, but I love, is that your real life is hidden in Christ. I love that picture, because if I'm ever going to discover who I am, if you've ever played hide and seek or whatever, you go searching for something, you're looking for something, or you've lost your keys and your keys are hidden in the couch, guess what you're going to do? You're going to tear that thing apart till you find it. The reality is your real life is hidden in Christ. Do you want it so much that you go, man, I'm going to tear into this thing relentlessly until I find it, till I discover it? Because it's not just finding it, it's experiencing it. And that real life, that Zoe life is the word.
Yeah.
And once again,
I was looking that up while you were talking yesterday. He's a lot of Zoe life in here.
Yeah, it's Zoe. It's abundant, exuberant. It's full. It's satisfying. Which I find this interesting, because when we get to the chunk the junk thing, the reality is that he's saying the very thing that you're wired for, that you're going after, to be fully satisfied, to find fulfillment and pleasure, like everything that you're looking in the wrong place. I came to give that to you.
Yeah,
but you got to fix your focus. But then you got to chunk the junk. And really the reason we hold on to junk in our life is we're afraid of what we're going to lose. We're not going to, we're not going to, if we have to give that up, well, then we're not going to have as much, we don't trust that God's way is better. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they can get this idea that if I follow Jesus, I have to give all this stuff up and life's no fun.
Yeah.
And that's totally baloney. In fact, what I would say, we're talking about the ride. What a thrill. I don't know. Maybe not everybody wants to get on a bull and ride it. I do.
I do too.
I would have done it. I'm telling you, you did do it?
Just once.
Really?
High school.
How long did you last?
I made it.
You did?
It was a baby bull.
A baby bull.
It was like riding a puppy dog.
I wanted to do it, but I broke my neck in college. And after that, I thought, probably not a great idea for me to get on a bull. I would love to ride a bull. But the excitement, to me, it's the excitement of that. Oh my gosh, what a ride, you know?
Yeah.
And I really think if we really understood what it means to follow Jesus, it's exactly what we would say. Oh my gosh, what a ride.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that, but what a ride. So, man, we've talked a lot. I said we're going to stay. Okay, let's go.
Okay. They just gave us the time code, and we are going.
Discipline.
We got to be more disciplined here.
Discipline, Mark.
But here's so to roll into chunk the junk though, and that's really where, Paul really leans into these concepts of behavior, sexual immorality, and but can I tell you the illustration of hoarders came to me on Saturday. I just was like, man, how do I illustrate this where this makes sense? And I kept coming up with illustrations that was going to hurt somebody's feelings. So I was like, all right, I got to back this out. And I was like, Lord, I literally prayed, Lord, will you give me an illustration that won't hurt someone's feelings? But you know what's interesting is that when every service when I talked about, have you ever watched an episode of the show Hoarders? Everybody laughed, right? They're like, oh man. But when you really think about it, that's what happens in our lives. We have these things that we refuse, unforgiveness that we refuse to deal with, and this is what happens with pastors that have fallen. They have a thought, an attitude that they justified, a decision that they excused, and it's this justification, it's this excusing, it's this tolerating, it's all the little things that begin to pile up. Yeah. And then you're not experiencing as it was meant to be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that comes back to the importance of genuine community. Yeah, is because a lot of those things and even when you watch Hoarders, most of those people are ashamed. They're isolated and they're ashamed, and so they don't want anybody to see. Yeah, I can't let you in my house because then you're going to see all this junk. Yeah, and I think that's what happens in a lot of people's lives. In my own life, there are certain things that I could be struggling with, and if I would just tell a friend and talk with them about it and then go to God about it with my friend, that's when we bring it out into the light, and that's where God does his work, is in the light. Yes. But if I'm trying to keep it in the dark, only bad things grow in the dark. Yeah.
It makes me think of that passage that you'll know the truth and truth will set you free. Right. Man, when you bring truth, light to a situation, there's freedom. But the lie is, if you bring this to the light, you'll be judged, you'll be condemned, you'll be rejected. Yep. You have reason to be ashamed. Yeah. And so what we do is we keep it, and then when we keep it, we lose our freedom. Because now we're chained to this darkness in our life, and we're not able to experience the freedom that God has for us in life.
And I want to say this just in fairness, that sometimes we see these big name pastors that have fallen or whatever, and we're quick to judge. Oh yeah. But the reality is, sometimes pastors get into a place where they can't go, and they feel like they can't go tell anybody because it's like, well, for goodness sake, I'm a pastor. Yeah. I can't go and tell anybody I'm dealing with that. Yeah. And what they should, though, is have somebody in their life they can go tell those things to, that are just kind of like, okay, let's talk about it. Yeah.
Which is a question I get. We got it last night in New Grace. Are there people in my life? Right. And there are. You and Rocky, and then I've got a men's group with a bunch of men in it that I feel 100% comfortable that I can get in the truck, ride down the road, and tell them, hey, I'm struggling with this. I need some help. I've got a counselor that I meet with, and we talk about, man, this is where I'm at, and we talk about different things. And the reality is if you deal with the pile when it's small, it sure is a lot easier. Right. Don't wait till it piles up, man. Yeah. Keep the house clean by daily sweeping it, right? And it sure does save you a little bit of heartache and a little bit of time if you just deal with it as it goes.
And maybe that's a good point on counselors, whether you like the idea of counseling or you don't. Hey, if nothing else, they are paid to not tell anybody else what you shared with them, right? True. So it should be a safe place to go and go, hey, and that is a way to bring some things out in the light. Really, you should be going because you believe they can help you. But if nothing else, know that.
But you should, Chris, the community matters. Yeah. I mean, that's what I love about my men's group. There's 8 guys in there that I feel comfortable just saying, having that conversation with. And what it does is it gives me freedom. Yeah. Because I bring it to the light. It's dealt with. I'm not having to feel like I'm hiding it. And there's guys who they're not gonna judge me. They're not gonna, So I love that.
Yeah. Can we I love doing these deeper little theological points once in a while. I'm gonna go out on a limb here a little bit, but in this Colossians 3:5-7, it says, "So put to death the sinful earthly things lurking within you. Have nothing to do with sexual immorality, impurity, lust, and evil desires. Don't be greedy. For a greedy person is an idolater, worshiping the things of this world." And then it says, because of these sins, the anger of God is coming. Okay? Yeah. Or other translations will say, because of these things, the wrath of God is coming.
Yeah.
All right. That word wrath, you and I have talked about it a little bit. And this is a word that just causes some for me, because the word wrath is orge, O-R-G-E, orge. And it really, in its truest sense, it means to fully extend oneself to take hold of that which you desire, right? To fully extend yourself to take hold of that which you desire. And so, and then if you read through some of the Greek lexicons or whatever, a lot of times it'll go in there and it'll say, well, orge means anger or wrath because it originally meant any strong emotion. And then they add on there, which became known as anger, because anger is the strongest of all emotions. And I always go, whoa, time out. Who said anger is the strongest of all emotions? It's not true. Love's a pretty strong emotion too.
Yeah.
So is sadness. So it really means any strong emotion, but more technically it means to fully extend oneself to take hold of that which you desire. What if we use that definition sometimes? I'm not saying God's wrath is not a thing. I'm just saying sometimes I wonder if it got translated right. And here I would say, well, here's all these things that are worldly desires and fleshly desires, part of the sinful nature. And then it says, because of these sins, the anger or the wrath of God is coming. So what if we read that differently? There's all this ugly sin, right? Don't do that anymore, because of those things, God is fully extending himself to take hold of you.
Yeah.
You who he desired. And how did he do that? Well, he fully extended himself by sending his son to die in your place. Well, that sounds a lot more like love than it does anger to me, or wrath.
Yeah.
And I think in this case, it would actually make sense because of these sins. The love of God, or the fully extending of himself to take hold of you, is coming. In other words, I'm coming to save you from those things.
Yeah.
That's a different way to look at it.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm not saying that's 100% right. It's just what if.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. A lot of that's tied to just quick search here of just classical Greek understanding of the word. But you're right. It takes a lot of. It's actually any action associated with strong emotion.
Right.
It's any action, right? That when you think of the wrath of God. So it's interesting because I think there's some. So I think you could be onto something there. I think
there's a lot there. And again, I'm not saying anger or wrath is not part of what we have to take into consideration with God, of his anger towards something. But my opinion is, even if he's angry about something, he's angry not at me. He's angry about anything in my life that is causing me not to be in this full, abiding, abundant life with him.
Yeah,
that's what he's angry at.
It's our really all our sin comes down to a lack of faith when it comes down to it.
Unbelief.
Unbelief, belief that God's way is better than our way, or honestly better than the world's way. Yeah. Which that's a Romans 12 too that I hit briefly. Yeah, is that, man, don't let the world be your standard. If you look around and go, I'm doing better than most people, you're still measuring yourself by the wrong standard. And so that's why I love that whole renew your mind. So they're giving us the airplane
I know.
sign. I know. So
and I promised I'd be under time.
No, I believe you.
How much money does it take to extend the time? So, all right. Well, let's push on through. Did you finish your point there?
Yeah. Sorry. Well, I mean, it's just that idea of you got to chunk the junk, and I very much simplified it. But here's what I would say is that when you go through that list, I think a lot of times we read that list through the lens of what we see in other people, and we really should read that list through the lens of, Lord, will you show me if there's, because there's some hot button topics in our culture today. But it allows us to ignore the areas of our life that we need to address that are piling up, and we need to address those. Yeah.
We compare sins. Well, at least I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I've got this thing going on in the secret. Yeah. So you made the quote you used the quote from Craig Rochelle in his book, Winning the War in Your Mind. Our lives are always moving in the direction of our strongest thoughts. What we think shapes who we are. Yep. And I just wanted to say real quick, I think that is huge. Yeah. And you list all of those sins and everything. And if we're we're watching TV shows and we're listening to crap and we're going places and all that, where that's all we're seeing and experiencing, and that is the stimulus that we're taking in, that's what our mind is going to be thinking about, and we're going to be drawn to that.
You should be not be surprised that you struggle with thoughts about those things. It's where it starts.
And at the same time, I think we as believers who want to walk more closely with Jesus and do this well, if we spend all of our time focusing on the sin that we're trying to fight against, guess what our mind's drawn to?
Yeah.
The sin.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on the realities, these new realities and the truth, here's what's actually true. And if I'll focus on those things, that's what I'll be drawn to in this closer relationship with Jesus.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to hit before we wrap up? They're over there crafting a whip about ready to drive me out. Some will get that joke.
Here's the deal. I think for me, it comes down to the idea, if you can't become new if you're not willing to change what you do. If you're not willing to change what you do, to make adjustments, to move towards center, then you're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle through the whole ride of following Jesus.
Right.
You may have some crashes along the way, but if you're willing to say, "Man, no, I want to ride well. Like I want this to be the ride of the life," right? Then you're going to have to make some adjustments to move towards center, to fix your focus, chunk the junk, lead with love. I'm not going to go long on this, okay? But lead with love, and that's where he talks about, the anger and malice and things like that. Can I tell you, that to me is the part that I think a lot of believers need to lean into, because you can chunk the junk and you can fix your focus. But if you're mean and unforgiving and hateful and rude and you're not loving to other brothers and sisters in Christ, then I believe you're in a bad place.
Yes, that's an indicator there's still something not right inside.
You know that unforgiveness. I'm going to do a talk on this I'm going to preach on this at some point. Unforgiveness. There's several things he tells us the dangers of unforgiveness. It will hinder your prayers.
Yeah.
It will hinder your ability to experience God's forgiveness in your life.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, God hates unforgiveness. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
He hates unforgiveness. So when you carry bitterness and things like that with you, you are not centered in your faith at all. Yeah. If you're centered in your faith, then you're living out the grace and forgiveness and mercy that you've experienced and is on display for everyone to see, that when people look and they're like, wow, dude, there's something about that guy. Yeah. But you've got to deal with it.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about how that's a hindrance to so many things in your life. Yeah. So Chris, here's my question is, like, this is awesome. Keep your eyes on Jesus, keep your eyes on heavenly, realities. There's numerous verses that talk about that. Get rid of the junk, let peace rule in your heart, lead with love. You're your mind's gonna be drawn to what you think on. So Romans 12:2, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Yeah. All beautiful truths in Scripture. Here's my question is, though, sometimes we don't do this and we get bucked off. Yeah. Then what?
We're going to talk about that a little bit this next week.
Week 3, man. Come back for week 3. All right. So next week is week 3 of the ride.
That's right.
Anything?
No.
Okay.
There we go.
Well, we'll see you all back next week.